Welcome back to another episode of the Bearded Bros Golf Show. I'm Rod.
And I'm Marcus.
Um, Before we got on camera, I was talking about the trip me and my family made up to Chicago. Plug for Chicago, amazing city. Don't let anybody tell you different. The public transportation, the sights and sounds, the weather was amazing. 75 with breeze coming off of Lake Michigan. It was amazing, but it was also probably the most extended break away from golf that I have ever taken in quite some time, or at least the most recent memory. I think the closest that I came to golf was a guy walking around on the L train with like clubs in his hand. He had no bag. He was just barehanding some clubs. So that is the closest that I came to golf this week. But glad to be back at it after doing the show last week after the U.S. Open. I tried to edit like one video and my computer like shut down on me and I didn't get to revisit till later in the week. So here we are after the U.S. Open on the PGA Tour. We had the LPGA PGA Championship at Barthostral. I cannot say that course's name to save my life. It's too many vowels and stuff to close together. But amazing venue, which, I'm glad that the ladies, again, we've talked about the LPGA actually putting on and representing for themselves. So
Yep.
amazing course with history. In a couple of weeks, they'll be out at Pebble Beach playing their U.S. Open. So they keep coming with the hard hitting venues. I know you
Oh, yeah.
actually got to watch some of the LPGA here at the end and got to see our winner. I'm going to try her name, Ryoning Yin, take her first major title, and after winning her first regular season, win earlier in the year at the LA Open. So tell me what you saw and talk about the LPGA PGA Championship this week.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty much all week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was pretty much drizzling or at some point raining, and then they even had a delay this morning and stuff like that. So weather wasn't the best, but the course still withstood. And I mean, the course looked pure pretty much all week that I got a chance to watch. And it looked really good. Rioning Yin, she did look in major form. Just really, I was, big up in Rose, and she just didn't hit a couple of putts, as I was talking to Rod about pre-show, down the stretch. Maybe like the last 4 or 5 holes, she just couldn't make enough clutch putts and kind of fell down the leaderboard. Still tied sixth, first major as a pro, second event ever or whatnot. Just a lot of remarkable things you can say about Rosang in a loss, but all the kudos to Rioning Yin.
It's interesting that I just said I wish the LPGA would take care of themselves, and they've done some good things,
Yep.
but they also mess around and do some stupid stuff. So I was just scrolling, through the LPGA website, which honestly the navigation is not that great as a website, somewhat hard to navigate through. But guess who they have instead of Rioning Yin as their winner? NG Chung. I'm going to pull this up on my screen, and this is the kind of fumble that the LPGA often makes that aggravates the mess out of me. So I'm going to share my screen here, and tournaments. Yep, here we go. So if you can see my screen here, so June 25th, KPMG Women's PGA Championship, NG Chung listed as their winner. Fumbling. LPGA, what are y'all doing? I don't know, man. That just seems really, really sloppy. I don't know who's running the website here, but
Yeah,
let's
they
see.
got to
And just
refresh
go to the
that.
results. Yeah, I mean they have her here over here in the banner, but when you
Where did
go to the
NG Chun even finish?
exactly, let's go back to the full leaderboard just to see. Not in the top 20. I'm not seeing her.
Did she
Oh,
even
there
make
she
the
is.
cut?
Tied
Okay.
for 24th. NG Chung. But when you look at the tournaments and then completed tournaments, They have NG Chung winning today instead of Ryan Yin. I don't know, man. This is what I'm saying about the LPGA. Just some half-hearted efforts and not really promoting their champions the way that they should be. Um,
Yeah,
they have. We talked about Rose Zhang a couple of weeks ago. We talked about her after around the Masters as well and her performance there, and then coming finishing her college career strong, starting off her LPGA career with a win, finishing tied for eighth. Again, you have stars that keep coming up in your game. Um, and then you do mistakes like that, like list the wrong winner on your website. Seems like a huge error in my eyes. But let's talk about Rose. Just after performing early on in her career, getting the win. You kind of talked about how she finished today, even though let's just look at the final result, tied for eighth. But when I pulled it up earlier and was kind of looking at the results about halfway through round four, she was crept up to tied for second. How did you
yeah.
see her finish up in real time?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, that's when I pretty much turned it on after I got off work today, and yeah. I mean, she ball striking gems. I mean, down the fairway, layups were good. Just hitting it to puttable, holeable distances, and just wasn't coming up with the putts. I mean, 15, she had a birdie look. It was maybe 20, 25 foot, but I mean, scaring the hole. Then 16, she hit a errant tee shot. It was like a 185-yard par three down the hill. And I think she went into the bunker, didn't hit quite the best shot. And so she had like, another 15 foot for par when it came all and said and done. And, just another scare in the right side, it's just wasn't making that next step. And then back to back par fives to finish on 17 and 18, had maybe 6 feet, 7 feet on 17, lipped out, looked like it was in the whole time, lipped out. 18 had maybe 80 yards left for the green, and just couldn't make a putt, just couldn't even
Well,
make a rallying point after it all. But it's crazy. We talked about the last 4 or 5 holes, but she still shot 67 on the day. She still shot a under par round. So it's like the game is there. It's just you
it's
just got to take
crazy.
that next step, and it's the major. So like, it's scary hours right now with Rosang, to be honest. I mean, they
I
still
was thinking
have
about.
so many majors to go.
I know they have three left in their season. They
They
have
have
a
three
total of
left.
five on
Yeah.
their schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and I think for her, I'm not even clearly in her first tournament she ended up winning. I look forward to the next year when she's seeing courses for the second time and
Right.
has her prep down to a T, how well she's going to play. I mean, right now she's probably still trying to figure out how she is going into tournaments and prep. I
Yeah.
hope she doesn't kind of go through some of the stuff that Lydia Ko went through with growing pains and having to change out caddies quite frequently or making the choice to change out caddies. Seems like she has a lot more stable home situation than Lydia Ko as well.
Yeah.
Ko's parents were a bit psycho, so I'm hoping that she's able to keep that stability. Again, get a great relationship going with her caddy. That way, when they go into
Definitely.
tournaments, they know each other. They know the prep side of things. But I think second run through some of these courses, Rose Zhang is going to be a beast. I mean, LPGA needs to look out. If you're not on your game, she's gonna, I think, ramrod, this league, and that's with a ton of talent. And I'm again, they're doing some things right. One thing that I failed to mention earlier for this tournament, they had a $10 million purse, so Yen took home $1.5 million. So
Wow.
kudos to them for making the purses larger and an attractive, and so that these ladies can go out there and earn a true living. I even saw when we were kind of scanning through and looking at tied for 24th, took home $86,000. And,
Yeah.
I'm honestly, that's for pro golf. It's very respectable, right? You're not bringing in the
100%.
same sponsorship dollars as the PGA. So again, I applaud the LPGA on one hand, and I slap their hand on the other way for listing the wrong winner on their website. So hopefully they get that corrected before the end of the evening, or somebody that's higher up catches that and gets
Definitely.
that fixed. But yeah, shout out to them. Looking forward to the rest of their season and seeing what stars come up again. You know, couple of Chinese winners, on tour. Jenny Feng from a couple of years ago, Ryong, excuse me, Ryoning Yin, and also her landlord. I read a story about um, Zizhu Lin being her landlord in Orlando. I think she'll be
Hmm.
able to buy her own home at this point. So
So
shout out to her for making that life changing money. Second win of the year. I'm sure she's near the top of their overall season standings at this point. So let's slide on over to the PGA Tour, another designated event coming after the major. From last week, we know that this format is going to change next year. So what we know this year, and this year only as the designated events, will be different more than likely, or will look different. So I'm very
mhm.
interested to see how that shapes up, how they will keep attention going after major tournaments. Again, they were able to get a lot of names showing up to this week. I think the only big name that we missed was John Rahm. Pretty much everybody else was on board. You had Rory, you had Scotty Scheffler. I couldn't tell. I couldn't remember if Finau was in the mix. He's going to be, defending next week in Detroit.
Yeah.
But a lot of names that and Keegan Bradley ended up winning the tournament by 3 strokes. He's a guy who I know you, as a taller golfer, have modeled your game out off of and kind of taken some pointers and tips. Kudos to him. He won last year at the Zozo in 2022. Prior to that, he hadn't won since 2018. I know he lost a lot of weight over the offseason, got himself into really good physical shape to be able to perform. And you've seen his name at the top of a lot of leaderboards so far, but hadn't been able to close out the deal until today. Super high, low scoring tournament, 23 under, took home the title. What do you think about Keegan Bradley rounding into shape? And he's 37 years old, not old by any stretch, but I feel like his talent hasn't necessarily been explored as fully, or he hasn't been able to capitalize off of his physical talents and win as much as you would think he would on tour.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I just think it's another example of if you had a flat stick, you'd be winning a lot more. I mean, I feel like unfortunately Keegan was one of the guys that got hit a little bit harder from the anchoring ban as far as putting goes. He had really made a resurgence with the belly putter, really felt stable, and it was giving him, I wouldn't say he had the yips, but getting rid of the jitters, had him calm around the greens and stuff like that. So I think also with the resurgence in athleticism and getting that shedding a few weights, I think that him going with the anchored arm lock like Kuchar does has really
Yeah.
gotten his putting stroke back into form. Using like a big mallet, and it's like kind of flat and everything like that, so he can be hunched over and kind of like in his element, stuff like that. So kudos on him. And actually, he had got it to 26 and then ended up, kind of going in the hazard on a par 5, and that took a little bit of
Mm.
the momentum off. But so, yeah, I mean, nobody was really catching him. I mean, I'm this week I watched like pretty much the first couple of rounds, and then seemed like he had it in hand, and then of course I switched back as 26. Next closest person was 20, and then 18 after that was Ches Reavie. It's like nobody's really challenging. I'm gonna just watch the Rangers and the Yankees game and just watch the Yankees freaking come back and beat my Rangers. So yeah, kudos to Keegan. Golly,
Yeah, and it looks like Zach Blair made a big run from 13th place today,
he
going
did.
8 under. He went really low, wasn't able to close it out. So 2 under for Keegan, able to kind of solidify the deal and not necessarily. He didn't. I mean, 3 strokes is a lot. He had some strokes to play with going into the final round. Um, Ches Reavie hung around all week. I feel like he does. He's won this championship a couple times, or at least competed. He's won once, pretty much competes every year on this
Yeah.
course. And I feel like Brian Harmon also finds a way to compete every single week at this event. So, again, shout out to Keegan. Hopefully, this spells good things for the next few years of his career. I was talking to a guy today as I was playing, one of my weekly rounds, and we were talking about how complicated golf is when you look at,
Yeah.
his not inability to win, but just golf is so hard. So just imagine driving the ball. From an amateur standpoint, amateurs typically struggle with driving the ball off the bat. Just it's the straightest face club in your bag. A lot of AMs are gonna fade it off to the right, slice
Yeah.
it, whatever. But think about you have a great drive. Then you have your approach and kind of the margin for error and how precise you have to be with your irons to get yourself in a position to actually make a putt, have a makeable putt. And
Yeah.
then like you're talking about Keegan's putter and how that almost, when they mention that on broadcast, they talk about it almost wrecking his career. To this day, his
Yeah.
name seems to be synonymous, with the taking away of the belly putter. I think another name that we don't see him as often, and I'm forgetting he won the U.S. Open out in California. I hate him. He's from North Carolina. It'll come to me later, but also did kind of the belly putter
Webb
or the
Simpson.
chest anchor. Webb Simpson, thank you, guy. Webb Simpson, and so both of those guys saw their careers dip after the ban. So you think about how all these things, elements you have to put together to win a tournament at the pro level,
Yeah.
driving, putting, chipping, and then being able to accurately putt. So let's say you can't read greens or can read greens, then you have to match it up with the speed, with the break that you see. It's so crazy when you break down the
Oh,
elements of golf and how complicated it is. But again, kudos for him for fighting back and not throwing in the towel. It would be easy to kind of let your career go to waste or blame the rule change and not be resilient. So shout out to him.
yeah.
While we were kind of transitioning topics, mom popped on here and said, "Wow, that's a good pay for the LPGA. My granddaughter will make good money by the time she gets to the circuit." So we're always we're always pushing golf in my household, lightly and
Yes,
trying to get
sir.
trying to get my daughter into the game, and at the worst case scenario, at least try to get a college scholarship and get some college paid for. So,
Definitely.
there's opportunities out there for ladies, and I think this is also something that I want to touch on. Kind of now that we've talked about the winners from the week, is the young talent. We've talked about this time and time again this year with a lot of first time winners coming out on tour, a lot of younger players. Of course, the name of the day is Rose Zhang. I think Rhiannon Yin is also very young.
Yeah.
But the story I read, with her kind of landlord situation is that when she was 16 or 17 years old, she was seeking mentorship from this older not very much older, but a Chinese player that had already made it onto the LPGA, and asked her how could she make it onto the tour. So when you think about all these kids so mentally focused on the goal down the line, and you hear kind of just it kind of talks to me about society as a whole when you hear older people saying, oh, this generation isn't focused. I think I see something totally different from that. I
Right.
see kids laser focused on being able to achieve their results. And I see that in the professional world. I see that in, sports, that these things are getting younger and younger. And yes, they are separating themselves from the rest, but there is this uber talented generation of people that are already focused on the pros long before they even get to that level or even are really close to it,
Yeah.
entering into college, leaving high school. What are you seeing? Or what thoughts do you have around that aspect?
Yeah. So I'm thinking. So like, really, it's just generational to me, and I've not really long thought about it, but ever since I felt like I've hit that maturation step, it's just it's really what it was when you were a child. Because remember when we were growing up, we were trying to get our hands onto everything. We wanted to play basketball. We wanted to play football. We wanted to do anything we could try to do to make it big, get famous. Now, this generation, just the very next generation, has figured out a way to be able to specialize in things. Like you think about the academies, the IMG Academy. There's a tennis IMG. There's a basketball IMG. There's a golf IMG. This it's just a whole circuit of you being able to get your credits, being able to do it in a homeschool style to where you can focus on that development and put more of your education on the back burner. You take care of that priority first, but it's very quick, it's very short end, puts the onus on you to do the work on your end, get a tutor or get the work afterwards. But your main objective is I'm staying on campus and then I have training, I have personal coaches, I have personal training. I'm already getting my dieting together. These guys are coming into the league basketball wise in tip top shape. They've already played miles of games. It's not like they got their pedigree from the basketball courts on concrete with the homies. They're playing AAU summer basketball for 4 straight years and then going
Traveling.
pro and traveling. That's the same way with these girls and these young juniors and these young amateurs in golf. They're traveling all summer. They're playing in all these top elite AJGA events, S to the Texas amateur circuit and everything like that. People are flying in from Canada, from China, all kinds of different continents and countries to compete for a week and then going back home to do school and then do it all over again in 2 or 3 weeks or in a month. It's
Yeah.
just the opportunity that they have to specialize and figure out what they want to do and going full on into it. So I think it's a blessing
Yeah.
and a curse. It's not like they're not leaving themselves something else to do. They're going to have to figure that out later on. But that's also a good thing because their plan A is to be make plan A succeed and plan B is to make plan A succeed. It's all
Yeah.
about plan A. There's no
And I
backups for
think
them.
that,
So I think that's
and I
great.
think you, I think you mentioned the education part too. I think, honestly, from when I was finishing high school around 2000, the prevalence of AP classes and people taking a ton of summer school classes to get college credit ahead of entering college wasn't as
Right.
prevalent, just 20
Absolutely.
something years ago. And so these guys and gals are going into college already, either sophomores, juniors. And so they have a
Exactly.
couple of years of credits already under their belt, and they're just kind of, mentally focused on their sport and achieving their athletic, goals at that point and going
Exactly.
into being pro. And they have a degree that is very close to it, being completed upon entering college at that point. So they're not stressing about 4 years or leaving anything on the table from an education standpoint, just in
Definitely.
case their athletic endeavors don't work out. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of them from that standpoint, from a life standpoint, and they can focus on what they want to do and what they specialize in. And I agree, we were always told, go play multiple sports. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Get a
Exactly.
diversity of, sports around you. And, good or bad, right? It worked at one point, but then when specialization became a thing, you were losing ground to people who were playing, pretty much year round. If you
Right.
weren't in the sport competing along with them, you're losing ground. You're not adding skills to your game, whatever sport you were playing. And so I think we're seeing that on the level of golf currently. And also when you mention these big events, they're playing top tier courses. And so they're getting exposure to
Exactly.
that well
They're already
before
seeing it.
entering college. 100%.
Hmm.
If they're not members already at home, they're getting to see this on a frequent basis. And so they're not getting kind of smacked in the face with, going from a muni, or playing a country club every once in a while in a tournament to, really playing that weekly and practicing at these facilities. And so, yeah,
Definitely.
I think it's been a game changer. And we're going to continue to see things go down that path and see the game get younger and younger. I mean, it's crazy to think about how that's always been the case with basketball, and the rules have fluctuated. But imagine seeing a lot more kids going straight from the high school level, and then applying their trade on, the Corn Ferry and getting status. I think we talked about Akshay Bhatia pretty much doing that,
Right. Hmm.
and getting his status on tour, going straight professional. Tony Finau was a name that we know that has trailblazed that path, and so I think we're going to see
Definitely.
that a lot more frequently in the golf world, as the young guns are not scared, and they're just
Yeah.
as talented physically, from a diet and weight training standpoint, as seasoned pros at that point. So yeah, man. I think one thing that I wanted to touch on, and I was just thinking about it. Me and you were both night owls, and loved watching DP World Tour, formerly the European Tour. Had some late night hours or early morning, but I honestly have not watched a ton of DP World Tour golf. It reminded me because a name that I used to watch all the time, Hughes Loudon, who played on the
Yeah.
Euro Tour, would compete. He ended up second place this week, but it reminded me of all the good players that have migrated over to the PGA Tour, or some of those legacy names that have migrated and left and went to the Live Tour as well. People that were
Right.
put in
Yeah.
reps on the Euro Tour, or excuse me, yeah, on the Euro Tour, have now kind of departed, and it's left barren. There's not a lot of household names playing on that tour, even for people who are lovers of golf that are still playing over there. We talked about Adrian Moronk a couple of weeks ago, but I fully expect him to start, trying to go full time on the PGA Tour at this stage. He's been winning
Definitely.
on the Euro Tour, competing. And, really the next step, if you're trying to maximize your earning potential, is PGA Tour or Live at this stage. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about the DP Tour? How much have you really, like, if you just sit back and reflected, how much have you watched compared to years past?
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's definitely been a fall off in currently. I mean, if you wake up early enough on the weekends, they do like 6 a.m. live runs and stuff like that. So, being able to catch that has been good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not as much exposure, not as many stars, not as many good hours as well. Like, I mean, I felt like they were doing really good with like the 11 p.m. Like, I mean, going full on live coverage, early morning type stuff. I mean, get those first tee offs again and stuff like that. I mean, you think about guys like, and it's just like what you say. You think about the young guys on the DAP World Tour, like the Hoygaard brothers and stuff like that. They're definitely going to be trying to dip. I mean, they're just too young. There's too much talent. They're going to be trying to get their money's worth. And I know the DP World Tour is home, but if they're not shelling out bread and good prize pools, what's the point in even playing? Now,
Yeah,
I still commend them because they play very good tracks. They definitely vary the conditions and things. They try. It's a worldwide game, and they give them worldwide conditions, and that's what I've always talked to you about, and what I've always loved about the DP World Tour, and I still love that right now. They still give you, so many different looks. Like this week was a German made course. I mean, it was still a lovely played course. It's just nobody's watching it.
yeah.
I mean,
The names aren't there. I mean, look, if
right.
you
I
if
mean,
if I
who's
went through
Tristan
the list
Lawrence?
exactly, and then Dale Whitnell from a few weeks ago, Tom
40.
McKibben.
He's 40.
Right. It was like his
Like,
first
bro,
win.
yeah.
I will say my guy Pablo Larrazabal. I love me some Pablo Larrazabal. He defected to Live for a couple weeks and then regretted his decision, and then had been fighting back to get back on the DP World Tour. Dion Germash. I mean, these are not names that we are familiar with. And so it has truly become a feeder tour to the PGA Tour. You even
Yeah.
think about names that had been fighting it out over there. My God, who's our angry golfer, English guy? Terrell Hatton. He was a
Full
name
on
that
PGA tour now.
week to week. He plays pretty much every week. Terrell
Yeah,
Hatton plays a lot, even on the PGA Tour, and so
yeah,
he was that name that you would recognize on the DP World Tour. Um, Horsfield, that left for Live, was a younger star that was starting to come up,
yeah,
and he departed. He's 26 years old. Ton of talent, but he left. And so it's like, what is this tour able to offer at this stage? Because when you look at the prize purses, 3.8 mil, 3.8 mil. For the Scottish Open, they're going to have a $9 million purse. So that's one of their bigger purses on that tour. That's going to kind of be a warm up for the Open, which,
right.
it's going to draw some PGA Tour players that want to, you know, tune up
They'll
for
come over early and
that
everything.
tournament.
Yeah,
100%, get their wares in on links golf. So I don't know, man. To me, disappointing because again, we've loved the DP World Tour. I don't like to see it turning into a feeder tour, but unfortunately, the finances of the game have shifted over here across the pond, and
yeah,
they're saying, and I get it, they're tagging along with the PGA Tour as much as possible, trying to survive, trying to hang on, but it seems like a losing effort, and again,
yeah,
we still don't know anything from the kind of Saudi, PIF fund with
yeah.
PGA Tour and DP World Tour. When you look at the stories and kind of news feeds around golf, none of those stories have updated since the announcement a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
It's gone silent.
Yeah, the most important thing was they were trying to get rid of the litigation. Nobody wants to pay for the court costs. Nobody wants to keep going through the rigmarole of that, dealing with that
No
stress.
one wants
So,
their dirty. No one wants their dirty mess, dirty laundry aired out.
right,
That was another huge part of it as well.
still might get aired anyways. Apparently, they're in New York Circuit Court trying to see if it's gonna get exposed or not. If it's gonna get, I'm sorry, let's use regular terms, disclosed or not, or if it's gonna remain undisclosed. But I'm pretty sure those records are all about to get unsealed and opened up as well. So, really, you just gotta hope that the PIF is putting in money towards both tours, gonna get both ones back on track or whatever as far as prize money. But it's exactly what you said. We just gotta wait for all that stuff to clear, and then you gotta wait for the end of the year when they get these reapplications going on. How's the
Yeah.
schedule gonna work going? How are we going to coincide with each other, especially with shared media rights and stuff now? Like, how is that all going to work?
Yeah,
There's
it's a
no way
mess. And there's no way what?
there's no way that their PGA is going to go to the CW. I mean, that like
No, that'd be a downgrade. I mean, the CW thing is
exactly.
done. That's gonna die. I mean, I feel like that. I think that was a 1 year, not a 1 year, but year to year deal.
Oh, okay.
Revenue sharing, not rev. It wasn't like NBC is paying the PGA Tour to broadcast its rights.
Yeah.
The Live Tour was sharing ad revenue with CW, so totally not set up like a network deal. You mentioned the court case up in New York. There's also, something on the table with Congress to have Live and PGA Tour representatives come in and
Investigated.
speak. Yeah, and these some of these political things are dog and pony shows, and there's not a lot to them. You find out how little politicians know about what they bring people in for when they
Right.
get on that stage. Be very interested to see what questions come from a golf hearing and try to figure out this. But the details of the deal are not solidified, and I think there was a lot of fluff in the deal because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The more detail that they put in, the more structure that they started off with, they were going to get a player's vote pushed. The way
Yeah.
they structured it, it did not
They didn't need
require the
one.
player
Hmm.
advisory board. Yeah, they could just push it through in theory. So what if this all falls apart? We still have no, again, it's not solidified. Who knows where this goes? And so there's so
Yeah.
much mystery to kind of the end of the season. What's going to happen. In the wrap. I don't think we're doing a full wraparound as we have in the past. Let me look this
Wraparound
up
is
here.
done.
So it's done, right? So there's a
Yeah.
couple of invitational stuff. The RSM essentially ends the season in November. The Hero World Challenge, which is strictly an invitational deal, just to keep people swinging clubs. Grant Thornton, which is the team event with the PGA and LPGA, is happening in December, early in December, and then we have like Q
The
School. There's
PNC.
no, yeah, that's not even on the calendar right now.
Right.
The PNC isn't. So, who knows where things are headed from a schedule standpoint. So more to come. It's crazy. We're just in the time that we have to enjoy what the greatness of 2023 has been. Let's just enjoy it.
Yeah.
you it's like a lot of
Seriously.
times we live outside of what's presently going on. It's been a lot of great golf. A lot of names have, resurged. And, I saw something on, I can't remember if it's what the page that posted on IG, but showing the top 10 or 15 rankings from 10 years ago to today. Really, the only common name that's remained is Roy McIlroy in the
Roy.
top 10,
Hmm.
and everybody else has changed out. Of course, Tiger was, a little bit post prime at that stage, but he was still riding number one. So yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for what we have, and I'm not going to dwell on what we don't know because it's fighting a losing battle. Um,
Facts.
so that's really it on our topic list today. Anything you want to hit on before we dismiss for the day?
Mm, no, not really. I mean, yeah, no,
No. I mean,
ain't
these
going
next
there.
couple weeks are going to be kind of ho hum. I mean, I love the look of the Rocket Mortgage. Played in Detroit, Michigan. That course to me looks pure. I would love
Yeah.
to play it, but it doesn't bring out a bunch of names. Honestly, I know Tony Finau is going to be there defending his title from last year. He got on a really good run of golf starting last year at this point. So it'd be cool to see him defend, but you're going to
Back
see
to
the
back
B
weeks.
team. Yep, you're going to see the B team for a couple weeks.
Shout out
You
Eric
got the
Cole.
John. Why shout out Eric Cole?
That's the B team. That boy, he's an up and comer.
Every time that there's a off week event, he is competing. He was actually flirting
Told
with the
you.
top 10 this week.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then the John Deere after that, returning winner JT Poston, if that says anything.
Right.
Um,
Who?
I mean, we know him because he's a
Yeah,
golfer,
we know.
but
We know.
and then we have, of course, the Barbasol competing with the Open. I don't even know why they run a parallel event
You know
um,
why? It's
to the.
America. They can't have some. They can't have some going on across in Europe and not have some home stateside. Come on now. They got too much pride for that.
I know. So three weeks we have the Open. Thank God. Next couple of weeks are going to be kind of eh. So hopefully some golf drama pops off in the next couple of weeks to keep things flowing and things to talk about. But
Oh yeah.
we'll be back here next week, whether it's a ho hum week or not. So Beardy Bros Golf Show. Peace.